Yeah, because you don't have to.
So Mary had me bring the books for the J and all the pictures.
Oh.
Well, since Diana left, I was supposed to do them for a while.
When I was having a nightmare and I landed on the floor, but yes, I did
I don't think she
break
rolls.
something.
She leaps through.
I jumped out so that I could come down with some force.
She was on the left side of the bed, and sometimes the boat came over down on the right. So either she went like that.
The dean of the University of New Mexico.
Yeah.
Okay, that would be all right. If you would like to go to the reception, please contact me.
No, I haven't seen them.
It's really striking.
I can't be looking at my phone now.
None of the labels shows me that how to forget
Because when we wear them, but you used to wear earrings all the time, remember?
I do, but I've gotten so lazy that I'll just leave some on that I put
Masa-san, as you know, was previously the head chef at the Japanese Kitchen, and then 2 years ago moved here and opened up his own restaurant with his wife, Kelly, who also worked at our restaurant for many years. It's all very family-like around here. So that means I did one of these dinners at Japanese Kitchen with you, where I was like on a veranda and a floor space. It was really awkward. But this is our second year now at Nagomi, and I'm totally stoked because now we're on video. We've graduated to a bigger media profile. Is everything good with our sound and all that, do you think? Yeah? Okay. So
it's okay?
Are we good? All right. Do you want to say anything before I kind of go into the sushi thing?
Yeah, good evening. My name is Masa. This is my restaurant, the owner chef. So, anyway, before how to make sushi roll, before make sushi roll, how to make sushi rice. So.
Okay. So Masa-san is from Japan, obviously. Doesn't speak English that well. Was obviously sort of uncomfortable relaying how to make sushi at Calvin's awesome request. Could you please demonstrate how to make sushi and talk all about it? Masa was like, okay, Ayame, I need you to do all the talking. I'll make the sushi, you talk. That's what his thing was. So I think I'll do most of the talking. Whenever there's a key point, Masa-san will go ahead and speak. He spent a lot of time on this piece of paper here. It's a beige piece of paper. Everybody has one. He's relying very much on this to convey a lot of information about the sushi making process. Okay, so there's the video for you to watch. There's my voice here, and there's this piece of paper to read. Now, as we read and go through this, and as you watch the screen, I'll be making little comments about what's on the paper, because I even had questions. I said, well, what do you mean by this? What do you mean by this? I was able to have your point of view as a non-sushi chef to ask Masa-san questions that I thought you might have. So one of the most important aspects of sushi is the rice, yeah? Yes. So he's going to start with this process of the sushi rice. And he has previously made, can everybody hear me okay? Yeah. He has previously made 4 cups of white rice. It is sushi rice. It's a high grade, short grain, high starch content rice. It's not Thai jasmine rice. It's not long grain rice. It's sushi rice. It's the shortest grain rice you can buy in the supermarket. The only thicker, well, there are 2 thicker, more starchy types of rice. One would be mochi rice. That's even stickier and starchier, and you can't buy that in any store in Albuquerque, I don't think. Mochi rice. That's the kind that gets pounded on New Year's Day. Steamed mochi rice gets pounded and then made into sticky balls. And then there would be sake rice, which is a whole different kind of rice, 3 times as big, way starchier. Don't want to eat that. So stick with sushi rice. He's made 4 cups of sushi rice. He thinks 4 cups is a good amount. Most domestic rice cookers cook about 4 cups. That's what he did. Now he's going to add, so he put the hot steaming rice into a big bowl. Did you see that? Now he's adding 4 ounces of sushi vinegar, which is the seasoned rice vinegar. It's got a little bit of sugar in it. Don't get just plain rice vinegar. That's going to be too sour. You want seasoned rice vinegar. It's a little bit sweeter. Here, the rice is hot, but he's sort of fluffing the vinegar into the rice. It's a very important aspect of this fluffing process to keep the air among the rice grains. Don't smash the rice down. You'll make it too glutinous. Keep the rice up and fluffy. Try to coat each grain of rice with vinegar if possible. What you'll do is you'll preserve the fluffiness of each rice grain. Delicious sushi. Yes, the fish is amazing, but it's all about the rice. It's all about the beautiful fluffy rice coated with glistening vinegar that is just a little bit sweet and body temperature. He's made the rice. Now he's letting it sit. He wants to make all the water evaporate and the sushi vinegar to soak into the rice. So he wants that to occur. So a few minutes. Yes. He's going to let that soak into the water, into the rice a few minutes. And the rice was previously hot, but hopefully now as it cools down, it's reaching body temperature. And it's about body temperature already. Yeah, it's been sitting out, so it's probably less than body temperature really, but we're aiming for body temperature rice. And if you're ever in doubt, you actually touch your wrist. That's your body temperature. So that's the rice temperature you're shooting for. So then you've reached that temperature and the rice looks fluffy and not too soggy. You want to put that rice away into a big Tupperware container with a paper towel laid over the top. And he's used to carry a towel. But really, just a dry paper towel laid over on top to absorb the moisture as the rice soaks in even more vinegar. So then put a lid on top of that. Oops. So that's a big Tupperware. You're going to put a lid on it after the towel. Yeah? Okay. So then you're putting that away, and now you're going to start making the rolls. This completes the sushi rice, it says. So do we have any questions about the sushi rice? The rice making process? We figure this 4-cup rice portion would make about 8 to 10 rolls if you're having a dinner party or something. 8 to 10 rolls?
Yes.
Sounds about right? Okay. All right, do we have any questions? Yes. How many times did you wash the rice? And how do you wash it?
Oh, just gently to the, not too much because just when I washing rice, to little bit the water is white, but little bit clear to water. Then after wash the soak to the 15 minutes. It's rice is more go the inside to the more moisture. And then after 15 minutes soak, and then put in the strainer or the no water. So
Okay. So it's important. So washing the rice is important to remove kind of like the it's not real talc, but it's the rice powder residue that is left over from the polishing process. All table rice is actually polished 10%. The outer surface of the rice grain is polished by 10%. Sake rice actually gets polished by 30% or more, and it's much bigger, but that's sake. So rice, because it is polished, has that powdery talciness, and you want to clean it off. It's not going to taste so good in the water if it's steaming. So he rinses his rice a few times. Don't do it too much, he says. Nah.
yes.
Just till the water runs kind of clearish. You don't have to be totally anal about that, I think. But he says then, while it's still in the water, soak it.
Yeah, soak it.
Soak it for about 10 or 15 minutes. 10 or 15 minutes. Allow it to soak in the water. Then strain that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then start
Then
cooking.
strain and then put that wet rice into the rice cooker machine,
Yes.
and then add the water that it says to, the portions of water. Then push your on button. Or
Yeah, that's
yeah.
it.
Okay. You can also pressure cook your rice. I know at Choco Cafe we have a giant gas pressure cooker, and we cook our sushi rice in there. So some people would cook their rice in a saucepan on the stovetop. Same thing. Follow your own rice instructions, But anyway, if you don't have a rice cooker, not everybody has one. Okay, so that's rice.
Okay.
Now we're going to move to the sushi rolling portion of the lesson. Any questions about rice anymore? We can go back to rice if you have to. I mean, we can rewind and go back to rice if we need. Okay. So wrap the makisu, which is this bamboo woven mat. See there? He's holding it up. It's the bamboo mat. It's made out of bamboo and cotton string. It's used in sushi rolling. What size? I've noticed when he held his up, I thought, oh, I've seen different sizes of those, and sure enough, you can get them in different sizes, but they're all kind of basic. He is using, see, there's one that's 9.5 by 9.5, and there's a 10.5 by 10.5. They're typically square. He's gonna recommend that you use the 9.5 by 9.5. It's no big deal, but he's gonna use the 10.5 because it's ready. It's ready in the sense that it is wrapped with plastic food wrap all the way around, completely encased in plastic food wrap. There's no Scotch tape. It's good saran wrap. It's high quality. It's not CVS generic brand. Make sure it's sticky. Okay. Then you're going to lay your piece of seaweed down on the makisu. That is nori seaweed, N-O-R-I. You can buy that nori seaweed in 2 sizes. Actually, you can buy it in all kinds of sizes, but the main size is like huge, like him, like he's holding it up, and that's going to be like 7.5 by 7.5. But he's recommending you buy the half sheet that's 4 by 7.25. You could buy these at Whole Foods, Albert's, any store almost that these days sells nori seaweed. But get roasted nori seaweed. because you don't want to spend your time roasting it. I don't. I like to get roasted nori seaweed. It's already crispy and ready to go. Any questions about the seaweed so far? Okay. So then he says, lay it down, and see how he's laid it on the bottom half of the woven thing? Now, splash water on your palm, and this is just plain water. There's no salt, just plain water from a bowl. Splash on your palm. Take a small racket-sized ball of scoop of rice. A racket-sized ball is like, what's a racket ball? I'm sorry, racket ball size. I've never played racquetball. But that's about, see that? See that? That's like a, I don't know, what is that? It's a 3/4 of a tennis ball size. They'll put the rice in the middle of the seaweed now. Place it down on the middle. He didn't smash it, did you notice? He kind of kept it all fluffy. And this is very important. Keep all the rice fluffy. Don't smash it down, but slowly spread it across the nori seaweed in a rectangular shape. Stay within the bounds of the nori, but go to the edge. And then use your hands on the sides, your palms of your hands, to keep the square edge in. Ooh, that's artful. He's totally keeping the square edge in. And I also think he's strategically making a little bit of a dent in the middle, maybe not. Anyway, very nice. That's a nicely coated piece of nori seaweed ready for stuff. Okay, so he has done that. Look at, that's beautiful. Now he's gonna flip it over. Okay, you can use the plastic mat to help the rice get down. Okay, flip it over. Wow, this is the key part. Now this is where you put in your ingredients. So, if you're making a California roll, you're going to have cucumber, avocado, and imitation crab, or real crab. It's up to you. If you have a spicy tuna roll, you're going to have ahi tuna, sriracha, mayonnaise, sesame oil, whatever hot spices you want. Oh, good. He's going to show us how he cuts. Good. So I was going to say, how do you cut? What size of cutting do you need into your roll? And you'll notice the bamboo mat is square, and he showed this to me earlier. But look, his 2 palms, just the 4 fingers with no thumb, fit exactly over the sheet of nori. Like, you can't see it. I don't know if the video man can't get above his hands, but if the video man could get above his hands, you would see that all 8 fingers are just covering his nori sheet perfectly. And then he said, your cucumbers should be about this length, and your imitation crab should be about this length. And it actually comes in this length. So can everybody see my hands? The cucumber and the avocado want to be about half the length of the nori sheet. So you can lay 2 in a long horizontal line on the nori sheet. Okay. So then, he's adding the ingredients. See that? Isn't that cool? That's great. So he's using imitation crab. There's 1, there's 2. There's avocado. There's 1, there's 2. Same with the cucumber. The cucumber is really nicely, finely sliced. I recommend that. It gives more crunchy texture. When you bite in, there's more of a gradual crunchiness that you get with many pieces. Now he's going to, okay, this is key. Now he's actually going to roll it. So he's going to place both thumbs under the seaweed and roll upward toward the top of the bamboo mat. And he's putting pressure on the roll using both of his pointer fingers on the mat. And he's actually just rolled just the nori and rice portion of it with his hands. There he is. That's perfect. That's beautiful. So now, are you going to take it out and flip it now? Yeah. Okay. So now, okay. Oh, he didn't take it out. He is applying very slight pressure to the outside of the roll with the bamboo mat to shape it and form it and to kind of secure the ingredients inside it, but he's not pressing too hard. Yeah, okay, back and forth a little bit. Okay, wow. There's a little bit of stuff on the outside. That's okay, it's kind of decorative. When you cut it, you can stand it up and make it look pretty. So now, this is very key as well. Now the cylinder's complete, he's ready to cut it. He's putting it on a cutting board. The knife that you use must be very, very sharp. Oh, here he is shaping it and forming it a little bit better. Okay. I'm warning you not to make it too tight, because like the worst sushi ever is too tight rice sushi. Okay, now the knife must be very, very sharp. Why? Because nori seaweed, when it's moistened, gets really flexible like a bandage in wartime. Like it's like a bandage that you could wrap around and it's like very hard to cut through. And so please use a sharp knife and use a firm and forceful slice like that once, boom, and cut through the nori. And then he did it half, and now he's going the other quarters. Here we go. And he's dipping his knife first in water. I forgot to mention that part. That also, the knife being dipped in water helps it go through the nori. And it must be very sharp. Because why? Also, because when you flip the roll and onto your plate, and you've taken it now from this shape and you're turning it this way, it's going to look really pretty and decorative if you have a sharp knife cutting through it all, creating a beautiful flat plane of, see? Yeah, nice, okay. Okay. Okay, that is the California roll. Oh, when did we add the masago? I forgot. Did you guys see that? He sprinkled the masago or the sesame after he shaped it a little bit, or maybe before he shaped it a little bit. Either before or after. You can see there's a lot of like flexibility in the process, a little bit. You can add sesame seed now as far as I'm concerned. I think it'd be okay. Now would be a good time to add a little bit of like tobiko or masago, little pinches on each little slice, or a little a caper, a Mediterranean caper, ding, 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 or a little slice of olive, or something fun, whatever you want. Okay, or a little scallion slice, etc. So then you would present that with a little pinch of wasabi horseradish and a little pinch of pickled ginger, and that'd be ready to go. That's beautiful. So, how long have we taken to do this? We don't really know. We're supposed to take 15 minutes. So we did that rather quickly. We wanted to show you slower, but I don't know, maybe we don't need to do that again. Because it was pretty slow, huh? Do we don't have the ingredients for another roll, but we could certainly do the same roll again. How have we done with the timing?
I make spicy tuna roll.
He's going to make the spicy tuna roll? Okay. Okay. Calvin, we're good? Timing, we're going to make a spicy tuna roll. Okay. Okay, here we go. There he is. He's grabbing the rice from that bowl of rice that he had made with the vinegar and all that. There he is. He's smushing it down onto the half sheet of nori. I think he's secretly making a little indentation right in there for the ingredients. Did you see that? There's like a little gutter in the middle for the vegetables and stuff that's going to go in there. Okay, now oh yeah. Yeah, oh, he made that gutter so that it'll be easier to roll with the ingredients on this side. Does that make sense, everybody? Yeah? Mm-hmm. All right, we've got the sliced cucumber going down, some sliced avocado. The tuna, you're welcome to use any fish that you like if it's edible raw, and spice it up how you like. You can see, you make your own ingredients and roll it up, and it's yummy. So here he is. He's making his spicy tuna is chopped tuna. So he takes his tuna and he finally chops it. He mixes it with sriracha and mayonnaise and Japanese togarashi, red pepper, and a little bit of sesame oil, dark roasted sesame oil. Those are all great ingredients for a salad dressing too. Like you don't have to mush it with tuna. It could be something you pour on top of a spicy tuna salad, I think would be nice. So here he is. I was talking too much. Wrapping it, smushing it a little bit, not too much. Very nice. Okay, so I see. So there was a little squishing within the mat, then he took it out of the mat and then is shaping it a little bit further. It's pretty. There he's not going to sprinkle things, masago or sesame seeds, but he could have at any of those moments. That looks very pretty. could have done it right. He could have done it before he cut it in half. Now he's, that is tobiko. Tobiko is flying fish roe. Tobiko comes in different colors. They're naturally colored with different ingredients. Tobiko orange is, what's the coloring of orange? I don't remember the orange. The yellow tobiko. Gold tobiko is colored with yuzu, Japanese natural yuzu. Black tobiko, which is called caviar tobiko, is colored with black squid ink. Green tobiko, which is called wasabi tobiko, is colored with actual green horseradish. So all of these colorings in the tobiko are natural, naturally occurring colors. The orange, I can't remember what, but it's a natural thing that causes the orange color. I think the natural color is kind of a pale yellow or something. So that's lovely. That's totally beautiful. All right, do we have any questions about the sushi making process? Huh? Anybody? Yes. Srirachaに似てる日本のソースかなんかある?
Not this one.
Yeah.
I
Not
don't
really.
know.
Sriracha is unique in the world. I don't know how they made spicy tuna rolls before sriracha. I'm just joking. They actually made them with spicy dark roasted sesame oil. Sometimes you can see dark roasted sesame oil with chili in it. Chili oil, that's really good. I think dark roasted sesame oil is awesome, but I'm always going to lean towards the dark roasted chili sesame oil. So that I would recommend that. If you don't like sriracha, is that because you don't like sriracha or you just... Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I would play around with that spicy recipe. Leave the sriracha out. Go with the dark roasted sesame oil. There are lots of spicy chili oils out there in the Chinese and the Vietnamese sections of Tallinn supermarket. Play with those. There's sriracha, but there's also another Vietnamese hot sauce that has actual seeds in it, comes in a jar, and it also has a rooster on it. It's not called sriracha, it's called, I don't know what, it's a Vietnamese word. But it's a nice spicy hot sauce, and you scoop it out with a spoon instead of squeeze it in a bottle. That's really yummy. Then there's like Thai sweet chili sauce, which I think it's sweet, but it's spicy, and that's a fun ingredient to use as well. So play with your hot sauces. You need a little oil for viscosity to coat the fish. That's why the mayo is there. The mayo is there probably to give it a nice little creaminess and fake fat, you know. The California roll was invented to imitate hai toro. Hai toro, bluefin hai toro, is even today the most coveted fish in the world. The Japanese pay more per pound for bluefin hai toro than gold today, every day in the Tokyo fish market. So when sushi started coming into the United States in the early 70s, bluefin hai toro was still hard to get, it was hard to get. And so to imitate the texture, feel, and flavor of bluefin hai toro, sushi chefs in California came up with the California roll, and they came up with fake crab mixed with mayonnaise to imitate the richness of hai toro. So that's where the California roll originated from. And the avocado also adds that kind of fat to it. So anyway, that's something I just discovered. Okay, so Calvin, we're good. So you're all gonna drink some sake and eat some great food, and I'll talk to you a little bit about sake as we go through the courses. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
What is premium sake to you? I've done this 3 years in a row. Many of you have already heard my ABCs of sake lesson. I chose tonight to let the sushi making be the star, and so I didn't bring my sake booklet tonight, and I also didn't want to sort of ram down your throats the same sake information I've given you over the years. but just for a brief review for those of you who have not heard anything about artisanal or premium sake before, and for those of you who have heard about it before, may I remind you that this is a very premium drink that you're drinking. It's very clean. It is sake. It's premium artisanal sake made in Japan. It is made out of 5 ingredients, but most likely tonight only 4. And those would be rice, water, yeast, kojikin, and possibly distilled alcohol. Okay? Premium sake must have only these 4 or 5 ingredients. If you introduce any other ingredient, such as distilled alcohol by liquid form, I'll explain that in a bit, organic acids, food colorings, sugars, if you add any of these other things, you are no longer qualified as a premium sake by the Japanese government. You will then be called a futsushu, which is a mass-produced regular sake. And these regular sakes comprise 75% of the market in Japan. And those are sake that you would drink normally in a restaurant hot. And so I'm going to steer you away from hot sake in general until more restaurants in the United States learn about good sake, because generally most restaurants, Japanese restaurants, are going to be serving very low quality sake hot. So tonight we're serving you cold, chilled, premium sake without all the other additives. So you're drinking rice, water, yeast, and kojikin. Rice is, as I said, very special in sake making. There are about 100 types of sake rice, and they all have different flavors. Tonight you'll be drinking 4 different sake rice types, or maybe is it just 3 rice types, and they all have different flavors. The water, soft, hard, feminine, masculine, that's pretty much the determination there. Minerality, softness, that's with the water. Yeast, aroma is about the yeast. Kojikin, acidity of the sake will be determined by the kojikin. And then finally, the grade of the sake is determined by how much of the rice grain is removed or polished before fermentation. So I explained that 10% of table rice is polished, table rice is polished by 10%. Sake rice is polished by a minimum of 30%. This first sake we're drinking is a very high quality, high grade sake because more than 50% of the rice grain has been removed. So I want you to just taste that super high quality, highly polished rice grain type of sake tonight. It is very fragrant, very delicate. Yes, question?
If we were in Japan in 1990 and bought a bottle of it, does it get better with age, or can we just throw it out?
That's a good question. She asked, if you buy a bottle of sake in 1990 in Japan, will it get better with age, or is that something you would be wanting to throw out? The answer is you'd be wanting to throw that out. Sake doesn't age per se in the way that wine does. Wine can get better with age. I know that there's a newer movement among winemakers to make new young wine that is meant to be drunk within 1 or 2 years, and they're going with the screw caps. They're not doing the aged cork bottles of wine. Some sakes, there's a very small subset of sake that is brewed with the intention of being aged, and those sake will age between 1, 2, and 3 years. And aged sake will taste richer and more viscous and have a higher alcohol content. I can almost guarantee none of you has ever had aged sake before. It's a very special market. The sake that you bought in Japan in 1990 in your theoretical question was not meant to be aged and therefore is meant to be drunk within 1 or 2 years of production date. So all sake is a lot like beer. If you like craft beer, although it's a totally different alcoholic beverage than beer, it has the same qualities of needing to be fresh. It's a fermented drink made from grain, and therefore sake should be drunk as fresh as possible within 2 years of its production date. The ideal drinking time is usually after 6 months to 1 year of its brewing. Yes? So anyway, I just wanted to make the point, you're drinking a really fine sake. This is the finest, most delicate you'll be drinking tonight. I've chosen to pair it with your first course for a few reasons. One is there's some yuzu in your first course. No, I'm sorry, not yuzu, ponzu sauce. Sake is 1/3 less acidic than wine, and therefore goes really well with vinaigrettes and vinegars and ponzu sauce. Ponzu sauce is Japanese sauce made with soy sauce and Japanese citrus juice. I've found it very difficult to pair a white wine with a salad, and I recommend sake. And so this sake particularly is wonderful with salads. I've done it in the past. That's why I've chosen to pair it with this first course. Do you have any questions about your first sake or anything like that? I have a sheet here with the sake pictures, the bottles. Sorry to give you so much paperwork tonight, but there's this other sheet with the sake bottle pictures, a little brief description of the sake itself, some of the sake's characteristics like how much of the rice grain was removed or the alcohol level and that kind of thing. So feel free to look at that. Ask me more questions if you like, okay? That food looks amazing. Enjoy.
He's a very nice guy. I suppose we're giving him too much money.
Got to have the uranium and plutonium to make bombs.
So you should theoretically have
Boy, we're on TV.
And we sort of took turns.
It's a good thing.
Who all had to do our reports and stuff on the social media, and nobody wanted to use it.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
The seventh grade, we've been pretty happy with it for 2 years.
That is pretty.
Seeing our kids like that, take a picture of the food and then send it to
Yeah.
the way get back at them.
I forgot to take a picture of the first course.
Quite a trip.
Yeah, it's very nice. Have to get the right angle though to get that.
Wood into the village and burn it for the week. So it was really for show there, but they were the traditional step kilns, but it's not used.
And then in Kyoto, they had to move the kilns off because of the pollution. And that was quite a few years ago. I don't even know when it was.
A lot of our
30s.
artists had studied in Japan maybe 6 years. Willie Singleton makes his own clay, makes his own glazes, and another artist, Betsy Williams.
Right. I'll give you one thing.
You can taste the
Yep. So, yeah, she still teaches, and every year she says we close the program. I think last year, not one person. That's really so much. What?
Excuse me, the way it works. What did you say? She's willing to what? She's willing to send them all PDF files so they can have it beyond the next hour.
That would be great.
That's what I was thinking.
But I was thinking she could come over and explain it a little bit.
But so that if you give us your email address, Kevin has one from last year, so if you give us your email, then we'll send it to you after she sends it. Okay, well.
Or they can give it to you.
Cheers. Cheers, Mr. Video Man.
Mr. Video Man.
What did they say?
Kampai. What did they say? Kampai.
I like the other one. This kind of like just taste it with
Yeah, like that.
right. True, absolutely.
First course.
I don't know what you say. Kampai is Chinese.
Kampai.
Oh, Kampai is Chinese. So we're in. Okay. We're on camera, Dale.
What's that?
Say hi.
Oh, hi. You take a picture of people drinking sake?
Yes, absolutely.
That's a good one.
It's important that you smile while you're doing that.
Exactly. Excellent, excellent. He was asking about the books and your relationship to society.
It's great. It's really great.
Send it to my son.
Yes.
That is the brown sole fish.
Is that what you're
Oh,
My name's Dale.
that's beautiful. Thank you.
Dale brown sole.
I should do that for Dane.
Kake sauce.
It's almost too beautiful to eat.
Yeah.
I should do yours here for Dane so you can see.
Actually, moving down 2 grades in sake, down to a junmai grade, which means at least 30% of the rice grain has been removed. So you are drinking a sake now that has been made with a rice grain with more of the oils, minerals, and proteins remaining in the rice grain. Those contribute a tanginess, a bit more rounder flavor, and an oiliness to the sake that was absent most likely in the first sake. I hope you noticed that. The reason higher grade sakes remove the oils, proteins, and minerals from the outer part of the rice grain is to reach the starch core. The starch core is what will turn to sugar, which is what the yeast will eat, which is what will turn into alcohol. So the higher the starch content of the rice grain, the more delicate, fragrant the sake will be. So you are drinking a sake that's less delicate, less fragrant. If you were sniffing it from a large, bold, chambered wine glass, you might observe the aromas are less distinct and less floral than the first sake you had. This sake is going to be more higher in acidity. This is why I've chosen it to pair with this fish course, the browned sole with kudzu ankake. The Kurosawa Junmai Kimoto that I've chosen to pair with this course is made in a really special archaic manner where the wild yeast preparation is done all manually, and so the sake brewers are actually, there are about 3 or 4 sake brewers standing around a large vat of sake, and they're actually using long wooden poles like this in a repeated manner and sort of dancing around the vat to create lactic acid in the steamed rice to create, to encourage wild yeast from the atmosphere into the brew. So this sake is unusual tonight. It is the only sake that has organic yeasts from the environment into the brew, and so that yeast was used in the fermentation process. Also, the higher acidity content I thought would be great with the fried aspect of your dish. The higher acidity helps cleanse the oil from your palate. And also the viscosity of the arrowroot sauce I thought might go well with the texture of the sake, which has a little bit more roughness on the palate than the first sake you had. Sake has no tannins. Wine does have tannins. Sake naturally has no tannins, but that rough texture you're feeling on your tongue from this sake is from the hardness of the water and also a result of the rice type, and probably a little bit of those yeasts are in that texture as well. Let's see what else. This sake is from Nagano Prefecture, which is a very high altitude mountainous region. The Olympics have been held there a couple times. Excellent sake is made in colder regions generally. Excellent sake is made in either A, super cold regions, or B, in excellent rice growing regions. Either way, the water is very, very key. Do we have, a gentleman had a question earlier about if you could buy these sake anywhere in Albuquerque. Yes, you can. As far as I know, Tallinn Market on Louisiana and Central has an excellent sake selection, and I'm pretty sure all 4 of these sake can be found there. But also the Quarters wine stores, there's one on Wyoming, and I think there's another one somewhere. I think there are a few. Those also carry a really good selection of these sake. Sir, you had a question? Anybody have a question? Yes, sir? Great question. This gentleman asked, after you open a bottle of sake, how long does that keep? Sake, as I said, is a third less acidic than wine, and so it doesn't turn into vinegar the way wine does, even after opening. It does get oxidized in the sense that the flavor will flatten, but it won't turn into vinegar or go bad. The key about your sake is, because you're buying good premium sake, you should, A, find a store that sells it chilled, if you can. If it's not chilled in the store, immediately take it home and chill it, because like beer, you will be prolonging the life of your sake by keeping it cold. So the longer you keep it cold, the longer lifespan your sake will have. Once you open it, you've uncapped it, and you've had a really nice meal, and you're down to just half the bottle. Cap it tightly, put it back in the fridge, and I guarantee you for 2 weeks, your sake will still taste great. After 2 weeks, it will go flatter. I recommend then that you cook with it or still enjoy it, because even flat sakes taste pretty good. The woman who had bought sake in 1990, I'm going to recommend first you open it, smell it. Does it smell disgusting? Throw it away. If it smells slightly okay, cook with it, okay, or heat it and drink it hot like other hot bad sake. This sake, Kurosawa, because it's a slightly lower grade, has more spine and heft and substance to it, and therefore, while you're enjoying it chilled, it can also be enjoyed hot or warmed. I wouldn't say hot like hot. Most people overheat their sake, but this sake can be warmed and enjoyed that way as well. It will really bring out the richness of the sake and even more texture. And I think sake is a really cool drink because you can drink it warm or hot. It's very versatile that way. Do we have any questions about the food you're eating or the sake you're drinking? Yes, ma'am? Yes, miss?
What is this?
Those are rice puffs.
Rice puff.
On the shrimp tempura, those are rice puffs on the outside of your shrimp tempura. Yes, sir?
Date is on the sake, don't even think of buying it, and then look for a recent date.
Okay, this gentleman said he was told once, unless the date is shown on the sake, don't even think about buying it. Okay, that's a very conservative attitude about sake. If you look at it that way, you'll never know how fresh your sake is, because A, most sake bottlers put the empirical, what is it called? It's the Japanese dating system. It's not the Gregorian calendar. It's not going to say this sake was made in February of 2014. It's going to say, you know, 036093. And you're not going to know what that means, because what you have to know, if you know that, is who is the emperor of Japan today and how long has his reign been, and then go back to that, and that would be the first year of that dating system on that bottle. So I don't think, to be honest, I don't think that's a good method. I think the best method of buying good sake that you know is going to be fresh is to buy from a reliable distributor, a reliable retailer. Just don't go to a retailer who doesn't know anything about sake and then stocks their sake for 5 or 6 years. Try to go to a sake retailer who, A, sells their sake so that you know that their selection is moving, and that, gosh, if it's not moving within 2 years, don't shop there. But if you have a feeling that these 5 bottles on the shelf were not here 6 months ago, you're probably safe buying that sake. I truly think so. Not only am I a sake specialist, I'm a sake distributor. So, and I run the Japanese restaurant. So I know sake in the restaurant, on a wine list, pairing it with food. But I also know the nitty-gritty of distributing sake out in the streets and delivering it to the loading dock of Sprouts Supermarket. So I've done that as well. So I know all about retail sake as well. And I'm very conscious myself as a distributor of keeping my retail stores stocked with fresh sake. and then I don't let them over order. Most liquor distributors, well, they're huge, Southern Wine and Spirits, Admiral Beverage, etc. They have their retailers buy wine by the caseload, and they give discounts. If you buy 10 cases, I'll give you 2 for free. I don't encourage my customers to do that. I want my customers to buy 6 bottles if they want, and to be able to sell those 6 bottles, and then I'll bring 6 bottles 2 months later when they're done. So my suggestion is just find a reliable retailer and buy your sake there. Don't rely on the dates. You'll never really know what date sake was made. Unless you have a Japanese retailer who knows the date system and can say, oh yes, that was Showa, this or that, you know. Okay, questions, more questions? Good questions, love them. No more for the moment? Okay, you're still eating your course? All right, I'm gonna be quiet. We'll let you finish that and we'll come to the third one. Thank you. Okay, everyone. How are you doing? Going well? All right, we have arrived at our 4th and final course. It's our beautiful, yummy dessert course. This sake that we're drinking is called Kikusui Perfect Snow Nigori Genshu. So this sake has 2 interesting things going for it. It's a nigori sake, which means it's a cloudy style sake. That means the rice solids that were unfermentable during the brew are allowed into the pressed final product. When sake is made, it's made in a big vat with steamed rice, water, yeast, and koji kin. Big vat, it's like, 6 feet wide, 8 feet tall. This stuff is fermenting for 4 to 6 weeks. And when it's ready, after the 6-week point, they will press the sake. And what that means is they'll be separating the solids from the liquids. And what they do is they'll take that big mash and put it in a linen bag or a burlap bag with a mesh weave made out of woven mesh weave. The bag will be about, I don't know, like as tall as me maybe, and as maybe this big. So they'll put the mash in that bag, seal it up, lay it on its side on this sort of like surgical bed platform thing, and it's got ridges on it along the side. Then they will from above lower, I forget what the name is, but a press. It's a press. They will lower it onto this bag full of mushy, ricey, fermented sake stuff, push it down, and as they push, the liquid stuff comes out. The liquid stuff is that first pressing of sake, and it'll actually be clear if the mesh bag has a tight weave, but if the mesh bag is very loose, intentionally loose, what will be pressed out will have some of the rice solids in the mix as well. So sake that is very clear and transparent typically has been pressed through a tightly woven mesh bag and does not have rice solids in the final product. What you're drinking is a sake called Cloudy Style Nigori Sake, which many people called unfiltered, but that's not really true. It's actually been filtered, and if you want to ask me about what that means later, you can. But it's really sort of rough pressed sake. So you're drinking the unfermentable rice solids and the final sake product. So that's one thing that's special about this sake. The second thing is that it's a genshu sake. That means it has had no water dilution. So it is actually at a 21% alcohol content right now as you sip it. It is pure cask strength sake with the evidence of the fermentation and brewing process in it. So this is sort of one of the most rustic, rugged, primitive styles of sake you could be drinking. Nigori style sake is kind of a nod to the sake making process. It allows you to taste the rice from which the sake is made. There's a trend, I think, these days to show the workmanship and the craftsmanship in our alcoholic beverages. I know there's this movement towards organic, unfiltered wines where there's evidence of sediment and even grape leaves and, you know, gunk from the wine. Just because you see, oh, it's made from organic stuff, it's fruit, it was fermented. So this is rice that is fermented. So you're eating the rice solids. The rice solids are sweet, so they contribute a lot of texture and body to the sake. And as you may notice, it's really rough on the tongue. I chose this especially rough nigori to pair with this sesame ball, sweet azuki bean stuffed dessert, because I thought the azuki bean sweetness and the texture of it would have a nice graininess that would go well with the granules in the sake. So that was kind of what I was shooting for. Also, the sweetness of the sake goes well with the dessert. The high alcohol content, that wasn't really something I was shooting for, but I think maybe that would help you out towards the dessert course. Get your final buzz on. Anything else? I think that's what I want to say about nigori sake. So it's genshu and nigori. So tonight we've had sake that has been filtered, rough pressed. We've had sake that's had 50% of the rice grain removed, 40% of the rice grain removed, 30% of the rice grain removed. We've had a sake with wild yeast that was allowed into the brew. And then here finally we're having a sake with rice solids and no water dilution. So you've had quite a nice range of sake experiences tonight, I hope. And the food looked amazing. I was very envious of your meal tonight. So anyway, do we have any final questions about sake? Yes, sir. Yes, they do. The Japanese sake makers use every part of the rice grain and every ingredient during the brewing process. First, the rice is polished, as I said, 50%, 40%, or 30% will be removed of single rice grains. That's oils, minerals, and proteins coming off. That's all pretty much white stuff. That gets taken to composts companies and animal feed grain making companies and pet food companies and that kind of thing. So those rice remains are used in those companies. And then the water, frequently the mash that is kept during the pressing, you know, after you do the pressing and you allow the liquid sake out. Well, if you're not making a nigori sake with milky, cloudy stuff, what do you do with all that milky, cloudy, solid stuff? You can give it to the cosmetic companies and they'll make really nice skincare out of it. SK2, I don't know if you know that product line. Kate Blanchett is the spokesperson, but SK2 is made out in, their main ingredient is an amino acid made from sake fermentation. And so sake companies send them their old sake stuff and they reconstitute that and it's put on your face. So it's a known fact, sake makers themselves are super young looking and they have really youthful hands. And that's why SK2 decided to make their cosmetic line based on the sake material. But there's something magical about sake and the amino acids. By the way, sake has 7 times more amino acids than wine. It is the highest amino acid containing alcoholic beverage in the world. I don't know if you're into amino acids, but amino acids contribute highly to umami. And umami is the 5th flavor that the human tongue can taste. We can taste sweet, salty, bitter, and sour. And then the 5th thing we can taste is umami. And we actually have taste receptors in our tongue that taste only umami. And umami is, another word for it is kind of like savoriness or yumminess. And it occurs naturally in Parmesan cheese, mushrooms, cured meats, butter, scallops, ripe tomatoes. All these foods, when I said them, I hope your mouth started to water here just a little bit. Because that's what umami is. Umami is the flavor component that actually causes salivation. So when your food makes you go, that's yummy, I'm salivating, it has a lot of umami in it. Okay, so ham, like I said, cured meats, bacon, rich in umami, mushrooms, all mushrooms have a lot of umami. The truffle has a ton of umami. So umami is made out of various amino acids, and they're like different chemical components, but sake has a ton of umami in it. That first one, a little umami. The second one, a lot more umami. The third one, not so much. The fourth one, lots more umami. It's an amino acid level. It's hard to measure, but it's something that's tasteable. And I dig umami, dig sake because it's got so many amino acids in it, and that's what's contributing to the skin rejuvenation, and it's also good for digestion. I mean, I could go on and on about what I think the great health benefits are of sake. I have citations from different universities, but that's not, I don't want to like get on the whole sake's healthy bandwagon. I just want to get on the like it tastes good and it goes well with the food bandwagon. But if you want to talk to me about why it's healthy or whatever, you could talk to me about it. It's less acidic. There are less residual sugars in it, so it's better than wine for diabetics. If you want to drink alcohol, sake is better for you. It doesn't have congeners in it. Congeners are the toxic byproducts of alcoholic production. Congeners tend to be existing more in darker alcohols than lighter alcohols. So whiskeys and brandies and red wines have a lot of congeners. Congeners cause hangovers, period. Any liquid, any alcohol that doesn't have congeners has less hangovers, period. Gin, vodka, sake, less hangovers. Sake has less toxins and congeners than any of those distilled products. And I'm talking only really good sake, the kind you've drunk here, not hot sake with added stuff to it. So anyway, sake, just really great. Also, if you're feeling a little buzzed, don't drive, but enjoy it because it's up here. Whereas with wine, it's down here. I don't know if you get that, but it's very lovely and sort of joyous, and I think it's a lovely drink. Sorry, my sake propaganda, huh? So thank you so much, Calvin, Mary, Leo, Masa-san. Masa-san. Thank you so much for this wonderful dinner. Do you want to say anything? Nanika you?
How's my food?
How is his food? He wants to know how is his food. Very good. Delicious. Yay. Thank you, everybody. Okay. ありがとうございます。